class, Chef Toi here. Just wanted to show you how I usually cut my cake so that it can be very level. This is free-handing it. We did discuss it a little bit in study hall and the live session. And so I did bake mine off of a tray purposely to kind of get a dome on it. There's a slight dome. Usually I can avoid this by just regulating the heat from the bottom during the baking process. But I wanted to purposely show you how to level out a cake even with the dome, right? And so if you have a dome, it's not the end of the world. You can level it out. I mean, I usually like to say that once you get to like the rim of the cake right here, you do want to kind of get a little bit straight right there, okay? And so you do want to kind of, you don't have to go exactly down here because now you're wasting a lot of the cake. You want to cut it where the dome kind of starts to get straight a little bit to the edge. And so it's okay if there's a slight curve, because then when you fill it with the filling and the baking or in the buttercream, it's not going to be a big issue at all. So this is much easier to see. So you can see here I have a slight dome and I want to get rid of that dome. And before you cut, think about how your hand is holding the knife. You don't want your hands to be on top. You don't want your wrist to be in a awkward position, okay? You don't want it to be facing upwards. Your wrist should be facing up, like the bottom of your wrist should be facing upwards, okay? You don't want your wrist to be facing down. And so when you're holding the knife, you want your pointer finger to guide the knife, okay? Think of it as you're holding the knife this way to maintain Think of it as you're holding the knife to maintain a level knife, right? Sometimes if you're going to hold it downwards, you have a very good chance of it going slanted and your knife is going to go slanted. There's not as much guidance. With your hand under and your finger under, as you're cutting, there's a little bit more support, which helps it stay straighter. And so, when you have it on a turntable, you can keep your knife straight at this point and you start to do the sawing motion. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and show you that. I like to say have your other hand on top for support to keep the cake from, to prevent the cake from moving. And it also, you can see that it holds it in place, but you can also kind of feel it, right? Be careful with your finger. Don't cut yourself on top right here. But as you're sawing, right, once you get to this point, when you kind of get close to the center, use your left hand to kind of start moving the cake, which moves the turntable, and you're basically keeping your knife in one spot the whole time. Okay, I'm not going any more forward at this point. I'm just cutting the cake and just maintaining that straight top. Okay, and so you can start kind of trimming it if you kind of notice it a little bit off, but as long as the top is straight, that's all you're looking for. And so, to cut your cake in half, right, what you want to do is find the height between the top to the bottom and goes right in the center. And so I say about there, about equal, that's about close right there. Same process here. I'm going to hold my cake down. I'm going to saw it all the way until the knife is mostly in the cake, which at this point you can see it's in the cake. And then now I want to just start sawing little motions as I'm turning the cake. And let the turntable do all the work. Okay? And then once you make that full circle, it's going to actually end up cutting through the whole cake. You end up with a straight surface. And then when you get a little bit of a dome on the cake like this, that's fine, because when you start building your cake, you can flip it, and once you fill it, you'll see that there will be filling in between that and the cake, but then there's just going to be a little bit more excess amount of buttercream on the edge right there, but once you fill it up, it's just going to look straight anyways. So I'm going to do a few more of this, a little bit quicker motion, just to show you guys, okay? Cuts right off. And you saw basically until your knife can actually just go through at that point. So, you know, let's do it without the top on top. So when I'm cutting it, right, I'm cutting it like this as I'm holding on the top. I'm cutting it like this, got the knife in, I start to turn the cake. As I'm turning, I'm keeping the knife in one position, and it's just cutting through the whole entire cake. And then once you get to like once you make your full round, then you want to kind of saw your knife through, because it's already made the line at this point. You just want to saw your knife through just to make sure it gets through the center right here, because usually when you're doing that sawing motion, it cuts through this whole part right here, all the exterior sides, but the center doesn't get fully cut sometimes unless you make your knife go all the way through in the center, and you could keep doing that. But I don't like doing that because then it could pull away from the middle of the cake. I like to do that at the very end. So I like to keep my cake in about that much. And then I start sawing. And then I'll run my knife all the way through. And then it makes that flat surface. So one more time, I'm gonna show you real quick. Just me doing it at a normal speed, okay? There you go. Straight cakes. You can just see how they all look very even. And then the top, see, they all look very even. And then I end up with my other layers that I'm going to put in between the center. So when I'm building it, it's going to be like this, filling this next one, filling this next one right here, filling this top, and then the extra round one right here, depending on how many layers you want to do. But you always want to flip the flat side up as you're building it. And then the very end piece where it's the bottom of the cake should be the last layer on top, so they can create as straight of a cake as possible, okay? And so it's okay with how these, because once these are all filled with buttercream, they're all gonna look even anyways. And then you crumb coat it, and then you do the final coating. I hope that was useful. That just kind of gets a little bit more in depth about the cutting of the cake. But sometimes if your cake is too thin, then you just eliminate the top and you just keep the bottom layers that are very straight. Okay?